Get ready with me while I explain my earliest essay story at the ripe age of 14. So, like I mentioned, this obviously happened when I was 14. I hadn't quite started high school yet. It was like the summer before my freshman year of high school, and it actually took place in this house. This is my parents' house, and in this room. So basically, I think my uncle had just gotten out of jail, or because he's always been in and out of jail. He's actually back in jail currently, but I think maybe just got out at this point, and he came over to visit because that's obviously my mom's brother. So he came over to visit us. He brought a friend of his over, and then my mom had a friend of hers over, and it was just like a little get together, hang out, whatever you want to call it. So, I guess it was like later in the evening and everybody had kind of finished the hangout. I really don't even remember much that happened during the day. I think it's burned from my brain, but we were just, all hanging out at the house or whatever. My parents and my uncle and them were having a few drinks, blah, blah, blah. But nothing too crazy. Like, nobody was like wasted or anything. But anyway, so it's like, it's time to go to bed. And so my sister and I end up sleeping in this room. The bed used to be on this wall, but we're sleeping in this room so that my mom's friend, she took the other bedroom, and then my uncle and his friends slept in like the little outdoor closed-in patio area. It's still connected to the house, but it had like a couch and stuff out there, so that's where they were. Okay, so there was apparently bronzer on my blush brush. Lovely. Anywho, so everybody's ready for bed. Everybody's asleep at this point. I don't even know what time it is, but everybody's asleep. And then me and my sister obviously sleeping in the same bed. All of a sudden, I feel this hand grazing my thigh, my upper thigh, just kind of doing like a little swift motion, making his way to the goods. Anyways, the scariest part about this was not even the essay in general. It was actually the fact that, one, it was pitch black in the bedroom, and as soon as I felt this happening, I open my eyes and I look, and this man is squatted on the floor next to my bed, and all I could see is his white eyeballs. That's literally the only thing I could see because it's pitch black in the room. First of all, this is so funny. But anyways, so that's the only thing I see. I sit up and I look down because I'm like, what is this thing I'm feeling? Where is this coming from? The man is like this on the floor. That's the worst part about it. I'm like, I didn't even care whatever he was doing. Looking down and seeing this man on my floor with his eyeballs being white and just, But anyway, so he's just casually grazing my upper, and when I mean upper thigh, I mean upper inner thigh. Like, hasn't really gotten to the yet, but borderline there. So as soon as I notice said man is doing said thing, I sit up and I'm like, I don't really cuss at this point because I'm like 14, but I'm like, I literally said that. I was like, what are you doing? And my body's instinct obviously was to leap over the bed. Mind you, the bed was like on this side, so it was like up against this wall. Like, he was on between the bed and the wall, and I leap over my sister who's sleeping in the bed next to me and run into my parents' room, which is right next to mine. So basically, I'm like crying, sobbing, go to my mother and father in the bed asleep, and I'm like, Mom, this man, he was in my room, blah, blah. And she's like, what happened? And she's like, Daryl, that's my dad's name. She's like, Daryl, go get him. Dad, he's like, huh? Rolls over and goes back to sleep. I'm like, thanks, Dad, my knight in shining armor. Anywho, he eventually gets up. My mom like pushes him out of the bed and goes to confront this man. I was like, what are you doing in my daughter's room? Blah, blah, blah. Which I'm glad it happened to me, not my sister, because she's 3 years younger than me. I would have been, anyway, that's not the point. So he goes to confront this man. Everybody's up in the house now. Everybody's awake because I'm sobbing. There's commotion, whatever. And he goes and he's like, what? No. He's like, I wasn't back there. He's like, I literally went to go ask her where the chips and salsa was. First of all, we didn't have chips and salsa in this house. Second of all, you kind of just snitched on yourself, because first you said you didn't go back there, and then you said you came back here to ask me where the chips and salsa were. When are you coming back here? You know what I mean? So, like, obviously, it was suspicious. His story didn't add up. And shout out to my uncle. That was his friend, mind you. He found out about it, and my mom went to take them home after the situation. She drove them home, and, my uncle was like, man, it's alright, like, it's cool, it's whatever. And I was like, okay, damn. But turns out my uncle was just putting up a front. As soon as he got to the house, or their house, or whatever, he beat said man black and blue and put him in a hospital. Thanks, Petey. So that was pretty much the gist of it. Never saw that man again. My uncle never saw him again either, I guess. Shout out Petey again. But the funny thing about it is, like, the most traumatic thing about that story is literally the fact that I just saw this man's eyeballs in a black room. Like, I had to sleep with the nightlight after that point. Couldn't sleep good at all because I kept seeing this man on my floor. And it's so crazy. Like, I just recently moved back to my parents' house. I'm 23 right now. So this was 9-ish years ago, almost 10 years ago. And I still think about it. Like, I was literally in bed last night and it was pitch black in here and I had to reach over and turn my lamp on to go to sleep with the lamp because it was pitch black, and I just kept looking on the side of the bed, like on the floor, like over here, and I was like, I'm gonna see this man. He's gonna be on the floor. But that's pretty much it. That's the most, like, PG version of the things that I've endured, so I don't even know if the other ones are TikTok, if I can post them on TikTok, but this one wasn't, like, the worst thing ever. I think, if anything, it was kind of funny, but, anyways, I didn't even finish my makeup. I got so distracted, but that was it. Hope you got a good giggle. Also, I did end up finishing my makeup. Bye!
Welcome to number 3 of airing out my family's dirty laundry. So, all of these stories are mainly going to take place when I was younger. That is when the most happened, obviously, as well as when my dad was gone specifically. That's when a lot happened. And I was, like, little years, like, a lot. So, whenever my dad was gone, my dad would call us and stuff, and, like, my mom would give us the phone, but she would stand over us and, like, watch us talk to my dad and tell us, like, if we told on her for anything, like, we were going to get sent away. As far as getting sent away, where we come from is a small town in Illinois, which is where, like, not really where we come from, but that's where we were at the time. And there's this thing called a Masonic home, and that is where people would send their kids if they didn't want them, or, like, people would send their kids there if, you know, they were struggling financially, couldn't take care of their kids. I think CPS would take kids there. I'm not sure on that part. All I know is that there was kids there that were, like, orphans, and, like, people that didn't want their kids. So that is where a lot of kids got sent. So that is where my mom would threaten to send us if we said anything. And I remember one particular evening, my older sister, she was probably, like, 11 at the time. I'm not entirely sure on the ages. We were all very young. So, like, I was probably 7, 8. My sister was probably 10, 11. And my little sister was 2 years younger than me. So, like, 5, 6. Those are, like, the age ranges that I believe that we were in. Of course, trauma brain blocked a lot of stuff out. So, one particular evening, my mom told my sister to pack her shit and get out. And so there was this white van that came and picked up my older sister and took her. Where they took her, I have no idea. But my mom was done with her. I don't know if it was, like, a joke or whatever, because the people did bring my sister back very soon after. But also, like, from what I would assume is my sister just was bad, and they were like, we ain't taking this kid, because if you know my sister, you know. Okay. Like, she was a wild one, and she definitely could fight. She was small, but she was mighty. So, I don't really know. Where did they take her? I don't know. Why did they bring her back? Did my mom pay them to do this? Like, the world will never know. I mean, obviously, when my sister sees this, she could probably comment and let us all know, because I genuinely don't. But That is just one of many, and there is way more to get on the books, because why not? Why hold all these good stories in to myself when I could be sharing them with the world and embarrassing my family? Because why wouldn't I?
So I have another Susie story time. Keep in mind, Susie hated me because I was not her kid. My other 3 siblings are her real children. I was not. She hated my mom, she hated me, and she made that very known. She made it known every day of my life. From the time I was able to walk and understand things, she made it known that she hated me. So, this day, we're in Tennessee, and we go through the McDonald's drive-thru, and I remember we get out of the drive-thru, and we can either pull into a parking space or pull out and get back on the road. She just completely stops, and we're all 4 in the back seat, and I'm sitting where I'm sitting. She can look directly in her rearview mirror and see me. I see her looking up at me in the rearview mirror, so I glance up and I just glance back down because I don't want to make eye contact with her. She stops in the middle of McDonald's parking lot, turns around, grabs me by my hair, and just starts wailing on me for no reason. I'm probably 8, and she's just beating my head in, and then she just slams my head against the back of the seat, and she looks at me in the rearview mirror, and I'm crying, and she's like, "You know why I just did that?" And I was like, "No," because she never had a reason. But her reasoning that day was because I looked just like my mom, and she couldn't stand it. And then she proceeds to tell me how bad she hates me, how bad that she wishes I was dead, everybody would be happy if I was dead, that just things you don't say to a kid, or anybody for that matter. But these were things that I dealt with on a daily basis, so it was normal for me. And a lot of the times when she would beat me, if I didn't cry, I would get it again because I didn't cry. But I eventually got tough enough to where her beatings didn't really hurt me anymore. I would just cry so I didn't get beat again. But that's the story of her beating me because I looked just like my mama and she hated it.
Hey y'all, Jazz Fields. I want to tell you how I surviving childhood trauma. Okay, I want to share a little bit of my personal life. I don't know, I'm nervous, but this is what it is. I remember when I was around the ages of probably between 11 and 13, middle school age, I'm pretty sure. My dad, who is now an estranged father, I don't talk to him, I have no communication with him. Back then, I remember seeing him out somewhere, and it was around the holidays, and he asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I began to tell him what I wanted for Christmas, and he said, okay, I'll bring it Christmas Eve, no later than Christmas Day. Before he became estranged, him and his wife was very consistent with bringing stuff for Christmas for a few years. And this particular year, I remember laying on the couch. I'm a child, waiting for him to come. He never showed up. He never came. And now my reason for showing up and working hard on this app and heading to nail school is because I don't ever want to let my children down, because that letdown has really triggered me down through the years, you know? So now I show up for my kids. I hold myself accountable for whenever I don't do what I need to do as a parent, as a mom, so I can be better than what I was given. That is my story, and that's how I'm surviving childhood trauma.
Do you guys ever have a disturbing memory from your childhood that just randomly pops up in your head, and at the time you thought it was normal, but it wasn't normal at all? My parents had been divorced since I was like 2 years old, and they literally despised each other. So when I would get dropped off to each of them, we would go to like a Starbucks parking lot. It was always the same Starbucks parking lot, always on the same day, same hour. And every single time without fail, there would be this man in his 50s in the parking lot with a trunk load of stuffed animals. As a kid, I was like, hey, like I want a new stuffed animal every time I come. And my parents would always get me one. I don't know if they ever thought it was weird that he was there, but every time I would get dropped off without fail, he would be there in the parking lot with all these stuffed animals in his trunk. Looking back at that now, like that's pretty weird, right? And these weren't like new stuffed animals. These were like old stuffed animals. Who was this man and what were his intentions?
Here are the story times of weird shit that my psychotic father would do. My podcast episode last week, I told you guys like how I don't have a dad and stuff because he's like abusive. He's no longer in my life, but I was like, wait, let me make a TikTok just about like the weird shit he would do. Not even like the deep and heavy shit, just like the weird shit. I'm aware this is a serious topic, but I spent years healing from it, so I'm like, let's laugh a little. One time my mother like forced me to text my dad talking about one of my cheer competitions. All you guys need to know is that I misspelled competition in this text message. This man came in my room at like 11:30 at night, dragged me downstairs, made me sit down with a pen and paper and spell competition correctly. He was like, I can't believe you don't know how to fucking spell competition. Like, you're a junior in high school. Like, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna spell it correctly. And I was like, this is why I don't fucking text you, because you're literally insane. It's like, you're gonna be here all night if you don't get to spelling, and like gave me a piece of paper and a pen and like literally forced me to spell it. Here's the issue. I still didn't know how to fucking spell it. Obviously, if I'm misspelling it, I do not know how to spell the word. Did he just think it was gonna magically come to me? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, competition. I'm sounding it out like, competition. Like, I couldn't, I still can't fucking spell competition to this day. He's like making me write it and I'm getting pissed. I'm like, you're so fucking dumb and weird. Like, who does this? I'm screaming for my mom. I'm like, Mom! He's like, your mother's not gonna come and help you with this. I'm like, I just wanna go to bed. Like, I have school at 7 in the morning. Like, fuck how to spell competition. I don't need that. At this point, 30 minutes has gone by and I'm still not spelling competition correctly. And I'm like, whatever, fuck this. I'm going to bed. And he's like, if you move, I'm taking away your phone. I just look at him and I go, wait, my mother pays for my phone. You can't do shit. I awoke in the beast with that statement. At this point, my mother comes down the stairs and she's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this fucking psychopath is making me spell competition because I misspelled it in a text message and I still don't know how to fucking spell it, Mom. Mom's like, just go to bed. Like, leave him. Like, just go. My dad's like, if you move, it's gonna be a problem. I'm taking your phone. I'm like, the phone Mom pays for? I walked up my stairs and took my ass to bed, but I was like, I literally still don't know how to spell competition. And guess what? I'm successful regardless. That's why we have autocorrect. But why the fuck did I have to sit and spell on it? Like, this man was just insane. This next story, my mom says, is the reason that they like got divorced. It was like a Thursday night and I was cooking my sister dinner and we're laughing. We're having a good time in the kitchen. So obviously I'm cooking dinner and I have like the cabinets open because like I'm grabbing spices. I'm doing my thing. My father walks in the kitchen and our laughs were like, ah, ha, 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 to like when that man walked in, we were like, what the fuck does the beast want? Go to part 2.
Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking about it with somebody else and they question it and you're like, oh, I guess that was kind of odd? Like, I was talking to my boyfriend a couple nights ago and I was telling him about, like, I don't know, my elementary school experience. And I said, yeah, in first grade, if you got student of the month, the principal would take you on a ride on his motorcycle. And he said, what? I said, yeah, you'd go on a ride on his motorcycle. And he was like, that doesn't sound right. I said, no, I swear, your parents had to sign off on it and you'd hold on to his belt loops and he would take you to his house. No, I'm just kidding. He would like take you to go get ice cream and no one batted an eye. All the parents signed right off on it. So after his reaction, I'm like, have I like gaslit myself? Did this not actually happen? So I come to my mom's house today and I just asked her, do you remember in first grade, if you got student of the month, the principal would take you on a ride on his motorcycle to go get ice cream? And she said, yeah, I remember that. And I'm like, and you signed off on that? And she's like, yeah. But like no one batted an eye. Things were just so different in 2004, I guess. That shit would never fucking fly today. Like, what the fuck? Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking?
Yes. So I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. At my high school that I went to, we had a nursery. It was a nursery / daycare in high school because so many girls had children in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And it was right next to my math class. And I remember my math teacher, whenever I had math in the afternoon, would always say that it was the best birth control room in the school because all of the kids and babies would be waking up from their naps and like screeching and playing or crying, etc. So I thought that was totally normal. I thought every high school had a daycare until I went to college and I was talking to my roommate about something about, yeah, you know, like the nursery in your high school. She was like, Ashley, that was, I think that was just you. I think that was just your school. So, yep, that's mine.
Do you guys have a memory of seeing something as a kid that you can't even explain now? When you think about it now, it's like, it doesn't sound like it could have been real, but you remember seeing it with your own eyes. I just remember this today. Like, I always remember this happening, but then I thought to myself, wait, that doesn't actually make any sense, and I never really thought about it. My uncle used to take me and my brother to this pool, like in Taylor's Lakes. I don't know if it was Brimbank or it was somewhere like near Water Gardens. It was like this like indoor pool. He would take us there a lot. I remember I was like maybe like 7, maybe like 5 or something. And one day we were in the pool and I was on like this floating crocodile thing, and I looked inside one of like the pool filters. You know, I'm going to insert a photo. You know how there's like these in a pool and like the water kind of goes in there? I don't really know what they're for, but I remember looking in there, and I'm not even joking. I can see it in my head. I saw a lady like inside it, but it was like, she was like sort of see-through. Like it was her reflection inside it, but there's no way that it could have been a reflection, because how does it make any sense? I remember looking at her, and then she like waved at me. And then I said to my uncle, like, there was a lady in there, something like that. And I remember him saying like, oh, people have died in there before, people have died going into one of those. Like, he said some weird comment like that, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but I remember thinking, oh, that's so weird. And my whole life I have thought that was an actual lady in there waving at me, until today, because we have one of those in my pool and I saw it for the first time, and I was like, there's no way a person could have been in there. Like, there's no way a fully grown lady would have fit in there to be able to be waving at me. And there's also no way I could have seen her reflection, because how was her reflection looking at me and waving at me? Anyways, I'm freaking myself out, but I remember her like, oh my God, I'm not one to like believe in stuff like that. But now that I think about it, I was really little. I was like 4 or 5, and I was seeing that, and like I can still see it in my head. Why do I feel like I saw something like weird? Do you know what I mean? And there's no other explanation for that, but I remember seeing it because it stuck with me all these years. I can still see her. She had like a swimming cap on a little bit. Like, she looked older. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking?
So this story is actually 2 stories in one, so buckle up. So I think you can tell by just looking at me that I am not a particularly athletic person, and that was significantly worse when I was a child. So come with me back to 2008, when I moved from Florida to Washington State because of the Great Recession. So going to a new school system, I didn't know what to expect, but one of the first things I noticed was this really heavy emphasis on physical education, which wasn't something I really had prior. Now, Florida schools are famous for a lot of things, and academic prowess is not one of those. So going to Washington State, I immediately was struggling really severely with school. I was finishing up the 2nd grade, about to enter the 3rd grade, and I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't really read yet. I couldn't really do any schoolwork whatsoever. In Florida, this was seen as normal, but in Washington State, a school psychologist was called, and I met with them. My parents didn't like them for some reason and got really angry at them, and I didn't know why. And so I went to another psychologist, and then another psychologist, and then another psychologist, and I never really figured out like what that was for. Now, fast forward a year and a half, and it's 2009, and I'm starting the 4th grade, and my PE teacher is getting just increasingly intense as the months go on. He constantly identified himself as a veteran, and it wouldn't surprise me if he used to be a drill sergeant or something, because I saw him really roughly handling a lot of students, and I was kind of just waiting for me to be the next one. So we were doing one of his circuit days, which looked like him taking a CD, placing it in a boombox that would give us the pacer test, where that old guy basically just walks us through doing a ton of push-ups, a ton of pull-ups, sit-ups, whatever. But then in between that, he would also have us run like a mile, like in laps inside the indoor gym. And just, we were constantly moving for over an hour, and that was what these circuit days were. I think like every few weeks or so, we would just have one of these classes where it got really intense. So anyways, I'm 9 years old, I'm running laps, and all of a sudden I just see something enter my vision that was like vaguely flesh colored, and I didn't know what was happening. Reflexively, I duck, and that hand just kind of like seemingly knocks me back to the floor. And so now I'm just like looking up, and I see my teacher above me, and I'm just like, okay. So I quickly pieced together what happened. Essentially, he wanted to grab me out of my running, basically. So he tried to grab me by the throat while I was running, like, past him, except I dodged it. So he managed to grab my shirt instead, and he had, like, yanked me backwards by my shirt, which had destroyed my shirt. For the rest of the day, I just walked around school with my shirt, like, falling off of me because it was just completely destroyed, and I didn't really think much of it until my parents asked me what happened to my shirt. And I was like, well, my PE teacher grabbed me. Like, what else is new, you know? So then my parents told me that the psychologist that I had seen said I had some issues with coordination and just generally had some like physical fitness issues that I couldn't help. And that made me feel like a bit better, but that also gave me an exemption from PE. And I just kind of moved on from the whole situation without thinking much about it. My parents tried to go to the school board and everything, but shockingly, that was not a fireable offense, even though I did watch him successfully grab other students in that way, like literally like lifting them by the neck. Anyway, the years go by and I am struggling through school. Now I'm starting high school and I know that I have been diagnosed with some sort of learning disability, but I wasn't really sure what. The only one I had been told about was dysgraphia, which is like a hand coordination issue for writing by hand. When I was 14, I was placed into a class for students who struggled with math, and that teacher in front of everyone else in the classroom looked at me and said I'd be lucky to ever work at a 7-Eleven, and that's if I could kind of manipulate them into hiring me. I literally went to the bathroom and sobbed after that for like half an hour. It was one of the most embarrassing experiences of my life in school. And eventually I dropped out of school because there was no way I could possibly graduate having failed almost all of my classes in my entire K-12 education. Now, I did get some interventions for my disabilities. The main one is that I got physical therapy as a child for my coordination issues. But more importantly than that, I also went to a linguistics intensive program that re-taught me English, like completely from the ground up. Like we spent months just on the alphabet. I had to completely learn like how to talk, how to like process language, because I just couldn't do it as a child. Unfortunately, both of those interventions were cut severely short because my father just didn't want to take me to these appointments, and that was that. So I only got a year of those when I probably should have gotten longer than that. Wow, okay, this is 5 minutes long. I gotta hurry this up. So anyways, years go by. I do actually graduate high school through an alternative school like program, and so I'm good, whatever. And I'm turning 19. It's 2019, and I have moved across the country. I'm dating, and I meet my now husband. Eventually, I told him about some of my struggles with school in the past, and instead of saying like, oh yeah, you must have been lazy like everyone else said about me, he was like, that sounds like you had ADHD. And I thought that was ridiculous. But then I met his mother, who is a psychiatrist, and she was like, you seemingly really do have ADHD, like you really need to get an evaluation. So I look back at my medical records after asking for them from my family, and I see that I have 3 diagnoses of ADHD. Each psychiatrist and psychologist that I saw as a child diagnosed me with ADHD, and my parents were outraged by it and just moved me to a new psychologist for another evaluation. That's why I was going through them so much. And in addition to the ADHD, I had several other disabilities that drastically would affect my ability to get through school. So 4 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I went and got my ADHD treated for the first time, and I almost burst into tears after taking the first dose because I didn't know that I had the ability to think so coherently, and it was completely life-changing. I'm in college now, and I am an honor student, and I generally am very successful academically. It's a completely different life that I'm living now. Like before, I literally couldn't even clean dishes, let alone graduate a school program or anything. And through that realization that I had these disabilities that I never knew about, I was able to really recontextualize everything about my upbringing, and so much more came to light, including that story of getting grabbed by a teacher. Those were things I thought were normal and okay until I met my husband. So yeah, I guess moral of the story is get your kids evaluated and then listen to what the professional has to say. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
A lot of people have mentioned that one of their childhood memories was seeing lights like this before they'd go to sleep. Eye doctors have said that there's an eye condition called pixel vision or kaleidoscope vision, but people who've experienced these lights say that it's not the same. These people all agree that they only saw these lights when they were kids, and it was most intense when they were around the age of 4, and it stopped when they were around the age of 7. Now that they're adults, they don't see the lights anymore. All of these people say that the memories of these lights are good, and that it made them feel really good and positive. Some people couldn't wait to get back into bed to see these lights again. A lot of these people say that the lights came in lines, speckles, dots, or full pixeled vision, and that it didn't blur out anything else inside of their bedroom that was still visible with the lights off. There's also a really big handful of people that say they only saw black and white lights, and that they'd actually be able to push the lights around with their hands. Are you one of the people that saw these lights when you were a kid? And do you think that it was just a vision obstruction, or do you think that it's something deeper than that?
Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking?
When I was moving out of my dorm my junior year, my suite mate was in there with her family and we were cleaning up the kitchen area. Somehow we got on the topic of oodles and noodles. The conversation went something like, "Oh, I'm so tired of eating noodles. I'll never eat noodles again. Da 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 da." The conversation goes on and I'm like, "Oh yeah, me and my siblings used to crunch the noodles up while they're in the pack, open the seasoning and put it inside the pack and eat them like chips." My sweet mate was like, "All right, Maya, nobody was that poor." And I just was like,
Ever not realize that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking about it?
So in elementary school, every time that you read for 60 minutes, you had to take one of those white coffee filters and either you could color it or like you could cut it into a snowflake and then you would go to your parents, have them sign it and then turn it into the library. The library would take it and they would hang it up or something, but they would basically keep tabs of how many minutes you've read throughout the school year. And then the prize at the end was if you were the kid that I think read the most in your grade, you got to go to McDonald's with your principal in a limo. And I am such a book nerd. I mean, I freaking love Dear Time. And so I got to go. Thinking back on it, I'm like, was that okay? Like, it was safe, I guess, but like, what? Like, I don't even remember going to McDonald's, but I have this like vague memory of sitting in this limo and like looking to my right and left and there's like nobody really there. What if I got kidnapped? Like, did anyone else have this experience?
I just saw a girl on here talking about how, like, do you ever realize that there was something weird from your childhood, but you didn't realize until you were telling someone else? And I'll tag her below. I immediately thought of, her story was so funny. Go watch it if you haven't. But I immediately thought of the weirdest thing that was, like, literally happened. My friends could vouch for me. In, like, kindergarten and in first grade, whenever it was someone's birthday, however old you were turning, so the rest of the classroom would, like, gather around in a little circle on the little reading carpet, and then whoever kid's birthday it was would literally lay across the teacher's lap and get the amount of years they're turning in spankings and then one extra for good luck. Like, literally, the whole class would watch the teacher spank. I can't even believe this is real. Would watch the teacher spank the kid. Like, say they're turning 8. They do 8 spanks. They're, like, laying across the teacher's lap. 8 spanks and then 1 extra for good luck. And I don't really remember, like, how I felt about it other than thinking, I'm not gonna be here when it's my birthday. Like, Mom, you're not letting me go to school that day because that whatever just happened, I don't think I want any part of it. Can you imagine that happening now? Can you imagine?
Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking?
My family put on shows, like full shows, full productions, and not just like my cousin and me would do a dance so that my parents would let us have a sleepover. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we put on full-scale musicals, and everybody in the whole family was in them. who were we performing these for? Because literally everybody, like my grandpa wasn't. I guess we were just always doing it for my grandpa. He liked them though. Like we did Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella in my aunt's barn. We were not children. We were like teenagers.
I'm going to start a series called Weird Shit from My Childhood. Me and my sisters talk about this frequently. We had a pretty out there childhood, like things that we bring up at parties or social gatherings that other people look at us like, the fuck? Why did you do that? What is that? So I think I should share them here. The first one is I saw a video this morning of a group of women dressed up like the 18th century, doing some type of reenactment history thing. And it reminded me of all the reenactments I did as a child, and you can go through my videos and see some information on that. But the real kicker was that we have a family plot of land up in northeastern Wyoming, almost the Black Hills, but like the crappy part, almost the Black Hills near Newcastle. And I would spend my summers up there, and we literally had to wash laundry on a washboard, like scrubbing it, bar of Lysol, buckets.
Have you ever not realized that something about your childhood was a little weird until you're talking about...
Ooh, me, pick me. Yeah, we went camping this one time. It was me and my parents, God rest their souls. Yeah, we packed everything up, like literally everything. It was kind of weird. The whole house didn't think about that. We drove this truck up into the mountains somewhere up in like Idaho Springs, and yeah, we were going camping. So we just set up our tents and stuff under this bridge, and for like 3 days. And then the state trooper showed up and he told us that we couldn't camp there. And then we drove the truck down the mountain and we lived in a hotel for like 2 weeks. And I kind of repressed that memory, and then one day I realized, wow, I lived under a fucking bridge.